Vanakkam, Gurudeva and everyone. Happy to be with you again after a short trip to India. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And we'll share the screen. And we have January 15th, which is in Asia. This is the 14th here today, and we had a honored Thai Pongal. Our first topic, answering some questions sent in to satsang@hindu.org. Gurudeva talks about the box of Dharma. What exactly does he mean? Climbing the ladder of consciousness has an excellent answer to that question. Human consciousness can be thought of as a ladder with 14 rungs. The lower rungs represent the lower states of consciousness, and the higher rungs represent the higher states of consciousness. An excellent understanding of these states is found in the Hindu system of the chakras. 7 principal chakras can be seen psychically as colorful multi-petaled wheels or lotuses. They're situated along the spinal cord from the base to the cranial chamber. Additionally, 7 chakras barely visible exist below the spine. They are seats of instinctive consciousness, the origin of jealousy, hatred, envy, guilt, sorrow, etc. They constitute the lower or hellish world called Naraka or Patala. So remember, in Gurudeva's teachings, heaven and hell have 2 meanings. Normally when we say heaven and hell, we think of a place in the inner world, a place in the Antarloka, and for heaven, a place in the Shivaloka as well. But they're also a state of consciousness in the present moment. And based on the state of consciousness we're in when we have our transition, determines where we go. 7 lower chakras range from the lowest of murder and malice up to fear and lust. We're not going to focus on them, we're just mentioning them. And the 7 higher chakras range from the lowest of memory up to illumination and godliness. So that's where we want to head. As we previously studied, and I often stress, Hindu teachings have 2 aspects, the intellectual concept and the actual experience. So in the full presentation, which we're not doing the full presentation, the previous material was about the concepts. So this presentation is a short one, and it's just about the experience. To begin, I will share just a few thoughts about the first 2 rungs, which are murder and malice, an absence of conscience. So interesting take on this is in Gurudeva's teachings. The lesson to be learned at this level is that actions have consequences. This is one of the functions of the criminal justice system. Our actions have consequences. And we need to take those consequences into account before we act. Many years ago, a segment on television described an innovative prison in California. As we all know, the usual approach is to regard jail simply as a time of punishment by confinement for a number of years. Under this unusual approach, many of the prisoners released repeat the same crimes and return to jail again and again. Their behavior shows no improvement. In fact, they may learn the criminal's craft while serving their sentence, become a better criminal. Jail is a school to become a better criminal, unfortunately for some. In this innovative program, the warden had initiated a regimen that included counseling, yoga, and other therapeutic activities to improve the behavior of prisoners so they would not repeat their crimes and return to jail. This program is showing an excellent success rate. So one of the reasons I put this here is to stress that those who are currently criminals in a few more lives could be a saint. You know, it's just the soul is the same in everyone. It's just we function through different chakras. So the person who's functioning through the murder and malice chakra can come up or will come up, and ideally the justice system and other people in the social welfare help the person come up quickly. So we never want to think of those who are serious criminals as being different from us. They're just a younger soul. When it comes to climbing the ladder of consciousness and experiencing higher states of consciousness, the general approach that modern teachers take is to focus on stimulating your higher chakras, perhaps in as short a period as a weekend seminar. I'm sure you've read about some of those. You study on Saturday, you get initiated on Sunday, and on Monday you're supposed to be able to attain really deep states of consciousness. So that's not traditional, shall we say. Traditionally, before you're initiated into that type of practice takes many, many years, and proving yourself. The cover of popular books on chakras on Amazon.com promote the idea that through meditation techniques given in the book, you can awaken your chakras and the Kundalini, develop your psychic abilities, clairvoyance, healing, and increase energy. So that's what's out there. The illustration I generally use is filling a bathtub with water. Imagine that all your spiritual practices add water to the tub, and that the fuller the tub, the higher your state of consciousness. However, every time you have an episode of angry outbursts, it is equivalent to pulling out the plug, which then causes all the water to drain out. Clearly, until anger is under control, higher consciousness cannot be sustained. It can be attained, but you won't be able to sustain it because you're emptying the tub through episodes of anger. So, clearly, we need to follow Gurudeva's approach, which is to first focus on closing off the 7 lower chakras. That is certainly not as exciting a topic and won't sell as many seminar tickets, but is definitely what needs to be done first. Then we get one of my favorite verses, which you know, Tirumular, verse 1444. Today is in Tamil. Seyit kadai nesa shivapusayame. So, seyit. To define that. Seyir, anger, rage, synonym, kopam. I think kopam is a more common word. And the English translation, adoration that displaces anger is Charya worship. So that's really beautiful. You can imagine displacing something, one thing moving in, taking the place of where something else was. So here we have anger, and through our devotional practices, we're displacing it by bringing in devotion. Beautiful idea. The longer explanatory translation of the verse reads, the worship of Shiva pertaining to the Charya path is to be with pure and spontaneous love, which is the adoration, which wards off anger, lust, and other such vices, and which renders fitness to the devotees to do services without expecting any benefit or reward. That's so beautifully written. Renders fitness. So that's what we're trying for. Renders fitness, character fitness, before we try for the higher chakras. In Living with Shiva, Lesson 272, Gurudeva offers some important insights into closing off the lower chakras. Ahimsa, non-hurtfulness, is the essence of Dharma, and the Muladhara chakra sets the pattern of Dharma. The Muladhara chakra is a very interesting chakra because it is the base center of energy and consciousness. And consciousness is energy, ever creating, preserving, and absorbing. Karma is the self-perpetuating principle of cause and effect, shaping our experiences as a result of how we use our energies, mentally, verbally, or physically. So once we narrow down the individual awareness from freedom without responsibility, which is the lower nature, into the consciousness of freedom with responsibility, which is the higher nature, the individual awareness or consciousness must pass through the portals of the Muladhara chakra and rest comfortably within the energy of its four petals. So that's the goal. We're not trying for Ajna chakra visions or Sarasvara experiencing omnipresence. We're trying to not drop into fear and anger. That's where we have to start. If we can stay in the Muladhara, we won't experience fear and we won't experience anger, because those are the chakras below. So we want to work to stabilize ourselves in the Muladhara in terms of the chakras. That's the first goal. And Gurudeva has a great image for this. Four petals, of course, form a square. Three-dimensionally, two squares put together with a space between can well be defined as a box. This box is defined as Dharma. Briefly, at this point on the path to enlightenment, we put our cumulative karmas into a box called Dharma. Once encased within Dharma, the various karmas may fight each other. As the individual progresses on the path, the box lightens and rises. The box of Dharma is the base from which the aspirant must live at this point. Strictly contained, he may rise through the hole in the top of the box in consciousness, or open a hole in the bottom of the box and seek freedom without responsibility in the world of darkness. To seek freedom in the chakras above is the Sanmarga. To seal off the hole at the bottom of the box is his sadhana, penitent tapas, japa, bhakti, and Shiva Thondu, all of which is eloquently explained in Merging with Shiva. Who holds the lid on the box? Community. Community pressures, both religious and secular. There are certain things you can do and certain things you can't do. End of Gurudeva's quote. Back to our box of Dharma. The core teaching of all the major religions is to provide guidance to human beings so that in pursuing their natural ambitions to achieve wealth and love, they do so in a manner that adheres to virtuous and dutiful living. In other words, all religions provide a means to live within the box of Dharma. And then we have attitude. First verse. Aum Sivaya Virumbu. Aum, of course, is the ancient Tamil word for Dharma. And as translated, desire to fulfill Dharma. So that's what we're striving to do. And that's our Gurudeva's look at the chakras. Not as exciting. If we had a seminar in Singapore, we won't get as many people, but it's definitely where we need to start. Start with the basics. Second topic. Character. We have respect, which is the 49th character quality from our workbook. And as usual, we ask you to define respect. The workbook definition is, respect is admiration and due regard for others. I observe it through humility in discussions or activities by following the lead of those who are senior to me or more accomplished. The opposite is disrespect. And a quote from Gurudeva, love is respecting the elders. Love is also respecting yourself. Because unless you have self-respect, unless you respect yourself, which means having a good self-image, you will find it difficult to respect others. And unless you love and respect others, you will definitely have a hard time living in harmony with the world around you. Next quote. Very large families may live in close contact with each other, and because they are so well adjusted and have such inner respect for each other, there is no contention, no feeling of being crowded. This inner respect for the moods and feelings of another is only possible because the soul qualities are awakened at an early age in the children. Comparing the actions of one who is respectful to one who is disrespectful. First situation, invited to an interfaith meeting, you respect. Make it a point to honor all of the religious leaders present. Disrespect. Consider the others as inferior and treat them dismissively. That's a word I generally don't use. Dismissively. Communicating with a boss, supervisor, or teacher, you respect. Observe cultural protocols and use appropriate language to show respect. Disrespect. Treat everyone as an equal regardless of seniority. Third situation, when a Swami visits the family home, you respect. Greet him with namaste, bowing to touch his feet in respect. Disrespect. Feel you are just as enlightened as the next person and refuse to touch his feet. And reflection. Take a moment to identify a few ways in which you could improve in respect. And the assignment. During these 2 weeks, watch your attitudes toward others and be sure when interacting with those who are higher or more senior, you are showing proper respect in your actions and speech. Thank you very much.